let's go ahead and get started. My name is Emily. I'm the membership manager at the San Diego Natural History Museum. And today we're joined by Bradley, who's our exhibit developer. Um, and I'm so excited for you to get to meet him and hear all about his role at the museum. You all do have an option to type in your questions in the Q&A panel. Please feel free at any time, go ahead and type those in. If someone else has already asked the question, you can vote that question up and we'll see that and answer that for you. And so without further ado, I'm gonna pass it on over to Hector and Bradley. Let me go ahead and stop this.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy to have everyone here today, and I'm so excited to be able to chat with Bradley Tsalyuk. I know we worked on that one earlier this morning to make sure that I was pronouncing his last name correctly. But Bradley is our exhibits developer. My name is Hector Borja. I am the Assistant Director of Development at the San Diego Natural History Museum, and it is a nice, gloomy, gray, kind of sweater weather out there, and it's a perfect day to chat with one of our amazing staff members at the museum to learn about everything that he does and kind of the magic that happens inside the museum. So, Bradley, I know I want to be one of the first to say congratulations preemptively on Monday being your 5th-year anniversary at the museum.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure if everyone's around here clapping away and celebrating with me, we all at the museum are thrilled to have you as part of our teams. But can you tell us about your role and specifically how you found your way to the exhibition team?
Sure, of course. Well, I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. Yes, I got my start 5 years ago at the Nat, um, working between exhibits and education. It was a temporary position. I was only supposed to be contracted for a year, and I was lucky enough to be brought back and stay on as the exhibits project manager. So I transitioned to working just with this team on all of our temporary and core projects. And then I started dipping my toes a little bit into the content development side. So a little bit of research, a little bit of writing, and I was lucky to sort of get my big break with the Unshelved exhibition that I got to really lead the content development process for. And from there, the content development position opened up, and I got to move into my current role. So 5 years and 3 different titles and positions at the museum.
Wow, it's so exciting. It's
Yeah.
always fascinating to hear how someone joins an organization such like the museum, where they come in on a part-time basis, or they start with only coming in a few hours a day, a few days a week, and then how slowly they progress. So it's great, and it's wonderful to hear that side of your story, Bradley. You kind of alluded to the next question that I was going to ask you because you brought up Unshelved. But is there, like, if you were to take a friend or a family member through the museum with your eye towards exhibitions, but also having started in like part-time and if growing your career, where would you take that person? Like that one spot that you say, I cannot have you leave the museum without checking out this one thing. What would
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a hard one. I would say, oh, that's tough. Um, I would say either, hidden gems on the second floor where we talk about, San Diego, specifically about San Diego's mineral richness, or, Costa Cactus. I love, the desert at night section of Costa Cactus. I think just, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in Los Angeles, but uh, I didn't really know that Southern California was such a like rich place in terms of biodiversity, and so the places that I really feel like celebrate this region. Um,
that's great. I know when I walk around, specifically with hidden gems, and it's like it goes all the way up to the 4th floor and down to the basement. It's just nice and fascinating to see, and it's one of the things that I'm always glued to is that like mineral rich region of our, that we have here in San Diego, and then within kind of everywhere in our region. It's just so great to see. And that I think always kind of touches base on like the beauty and like the wonder of what we have. And so it's like a combination of art and science. Um, how does that blend? I know like with your background, Bradley, like how do you go about making sure that art and science can somehow, coexist in the same space?
Yeah.
What's the process?
Yeah, so I came from sort of a unique background. I have a background in fine art, so photography, painting, drawing, all of that is sort of my background and my education. But bringing that into a science context is really interesting because so much of our storytelling is visual, right? You're looking at specimens, you're looking at graphics and photography and videos, and so much about our exhibitions is really celebrating this like visual richness through these treasures that we have, right? We have
Mm,
all these beautiful
yeah.
specimens, we have minerals, we have birds that are taxidermy, we have just amazing shells and all of these things that are so visually rich, and it makes the storytelling easier when you sort of can tune into what makes people excited. And part of it is when they sort of walk up to the case and they're excited by what they're going to look at. They get that wow moment when they see everything laid out. um, and so I think we try and do that with every exhibition. We try and give people that wow moment when they walk into the room or when they're walking up to a case.
Nice. You said a few things there where it kind of triggered me to want to follow up with another question that a little birdie told me that you have a really fascinating, hobby that you like to do, and a personal story of, if you feel comfortable sharing with it, was an amazing camera that you built, or
Yes.
refurbished, and kind of like how much of it, your hobby and your professional life, like what is there a fine line, or do the both sides kind of blend?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, totally blended. When I'm not in the museum, I like to be out in the natural world hiking, and part of that is also doing, landscape photography and nature photography. And so I really got inspired actually by a camera that I saw in the museum, in the museum's collection. So this was a camera from, the early 20th century. It's a glass plate camera. I mean, we're talking about a totally antique camera. And so it was so beautiful and so interesting that I decided to find one myself. And I found one, but it was in terrible condition. And so I had to refurbish the whole thing in order to be able to use it. But I've been using it, and I take it out to the desert with me, and I go out there and I photograph using this camera from the early 20th century.
Wow. Hearing that just makes me think of, from time to time on our social media pages, we have Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday images, and we always see our early museum members going out there, or our curators going out there with these cameras, and now I'm envisioning you standing right there next to them, almost like mirror images of them taking pictures of these beautiful specimens out there that maybe now don't exist. So that's super fast. That's really fascinating, Bradley. That's really great to hear. Um, what one thing that kind of comes to mind is, uh, if you were kind of like budget aside, specifically because you have this like connection of art and science. If
Mhm.
budgets weren't a restraint, if you didn't have to really think about the money side of building an exhibition, what would be your dream exhibition with the combining your passions of art and science? Like if you could
Oh,
think of anything, I know you've dabbled a little bit in some of our amazing exhibitions, and we'll definitely dive into those. But if those aside, what would be your like something that you would love to work on?
oh man, that's hard. I would. Uh, I would want to work on something that really involved open storage and open collections. So letting people go through the like cool stuff themselves, right? I mean, part of the coolest part of my job, that people get really excited about when I talk about it is that I get to go into the collections with curators, and I get to sort through the stuff and select it and help them select it, and decide what's going to go on display. And so I get to see and hold the treasures of the museum. And I feel like, if budgets weren't an issue, and also, like liability and, protecting the collections,
Right,
of course,
right.
I want visitors to sort of get that feeling as much as possible. That feeling of like opening a drawer and discovering something is just so exciting and so powerful. And I think that's what we tried to do in Unshelved, right? We tried to get as close as we could to that feeling. And so, yeah, that I would want to recreate that as much as possible at a huge scale.
See, I just that kind of just gave me chills because I have been on some behind the scenes tours where we see our curators opening our collection shelves, and it is like a moment of like nostalgia where you sit there and you're like, this hasn't been seen in decades, centuries,
Mm-hmm.
but here I am standing there looking at specimens and objects. So you kind of talked a little bit about that and Unshelved. I think that was, I mean, it's a beautiful exhibition. So kudos for that. Can you tell us a little bit about what, like, your thought process to picking out the specimens that went into the exhibition, and kind of walk us through that process specifically for Unshelved, because I think that was one of the ones that you definitely took a big lead in that one. So
Yeah, Unshelved was an unusual opportunity to have the freedom to really like. I was sent off into the collections, right? Just go into the collections and find the cool stuff and bring it out, right? And so that's a huge task, and it was the most fun I've ever had. I mean, I looked through all the collections plus any storage unit, closet. I went down to the warehouse that we have off site. I looked through everything. Um, and part of how we wanted to organize it was around some major themes. And a lot of it was really visually based. Again, right? I'm a visual artist, and so I have to sort of think about things sometimes in that way. And so we organized it around these sort of big categories: big, small, beautiful, and bizarre. And so in the beautiful category, we really focused on color, color and pattern. And big and small, again, we focused on things that you could compare really easily side by side. And in the bizarre section, we just pulled out all sorts of cool goodies, things that we have in jars, right? I mean, things. These were all things that our visitors haven't necessarily ever seen before. Some of these things had never been on display before. Some had been on display, but they were on display in the historic building and in the museum previously. And so some of our older visitors recognized some of these objects that we were bringing back out. And so there's like this element of nostalgia, but also new things. And I just like this mix of stuff that was just really visually rich for people to look at. And we also tried to put in as many things as we could fit into the space too. Like I think we ended up with over 300 objects, which is a very dense amount of specimens for an exhibition.
mhm.
And so we really decided to just put as much out there as we could so people could spend time and come back to the exhibit and discover new things when they would come back to the museum. So a lot of stuff.
Yeah, oh, I could visually see myself walking through, because you said that it's kind of organized by color palette, and yeah, as you walk around, like, you definitely do see the
Mm-hmm.
color patterns that
Mm-hmm.
that went into it, and oh my goodness, yeah, now I could see how you want to give that sense of rediscovery, and even when I go back in there, like when I do, because I've been in the museum for a little over a year and a half now, and when I first went in there, what I saw the first time has changed from what I saw the second time there
Yeah.
and the third time. So it always happens. So it's amazing to hear that that's what you wanted visitors to get out of going to Unshelved. So that is just amazing work, Bradley. That's great. That's a
Thanks.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun. I mean, we want people to come back and just continue exploring, right? That's the idea, is that there's always sort of something new that's around the corner. Uh, I mean, I think that's also why sort of Hidden Gems works the way it does, where it's sort of stretched across the whole building. So when you get to a new floor, there's just something new and something really exciting to see.
nice. Speaking of new and exciting, is there anything new or upcoming that you could maybe share with our listeners and with me today? You know,
Yes.
as members only type television or visual members only meetup that we have right now. Is there anything that's on the pipeline that you can share and kind of tell us all a little bit about?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been working really hard on a new photography exhibition. We met with two photographers who are based in Northern California, and they put out this beautiful book of wildflower photography. But it's not just beautiful pictures of wildflowers. It's also telling the story of climate change in our region and in California.
Yeah.
And so we are putting up the exhibition actually right now. It's being installed in the museum, and we'll open it when the museum reopens. And so the wildflower photography is just astounding. I mean, just they're doing amazing work. And so through these amazing images, we're actually also able to tell the story of how climate change is affecting our region, which is an extremely important story to tell. We just had this crazy wildfire season as well, and so there's a lot of really relevant stories there for our visitors. And then after that, we're also right at the beginning stages of content development for a core exhibition about the Baja California Peninsula. So this is,
Nice.
a core part of our mission region, right? We have
Mhm.
this 800-mile long peninsula just, on the other side of the border, and it's where a lot of our research and conservation work is taking place. And so we have an opportunity to tell this story of this amazing place on the fourth floor of the museum in a new gallery space that we're actually constructing. Yes, yes,
New gallery space.
yes, new
Hey,
gallery
folks.
space. Yes. So hopefully, a little bit more, public space for visitors to walk around in, and we're excited for this particular exhibition because it's just so essential to the museum's mission, and because our scientists have been doing so much work there with Mexican research partners and scientists that there's a lot of exciting stories to tell, and we've got to figure out what we're going to fill the gallery with.
Oh my gosh, it's almost like a blank canvas, and what you're saying is it's going to be an opportunity to kind of fill it with some great content that we have. We I wanted to kind of put out there that we are taking questions if you have anyone, and one just came in right now. How do you start creating? And it's a great question. How do you start creating a new exhibition like to start telling a story? Visuals, text, or kind of any editing that needs to happen for an exhibition to come out to its final end product.
Yeah, that early stage is so critical. We spend about 2 years on average planning an exhibition at least, and so 2 years out from opening, we're starting that early conversation about who is this exhibition for? What is the exhibition going to be about? How does it connect to the mission and the strategy? And uh, we select our topics after asking visitors. Typically, we'll do some visitor surveying. We want to know what people are interested in hearing
Mhm.
about. Um, and we also know that we want to really focus on our regional biodiversity, right? Like we have a regional focus. And so typically our topics are falling within that category. So yeah, that's that early critical stage to launch an exhibition is a lot of consensus building with a lot of different departments. We talk to marketing, we work with our education team to make sure the topic is relevant from an educational standpoint, and we also want to make sure visitors are excited about it.
Uh, do- when you talk about visitors being excited about it, I think about the visitor experience, and we want to make sure that we are up to date on that, or that we are following what the visitors want and tell us that they would love to see within our walls. Is there kind of any evaluation process that goes into after the exhibition has been created and displayed and is open to see if we've hit our target, or kind of walk us through like that process?
Yeah, so again, our everything we're doing is for the public, for visitors, right? We are putting all this out there for them, and we want to talk to them. So we typically talk to visitors throughout our process, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So at the end of our process, once the exhibition is opened, we go back to our visitors and we say, hey, what did you learn? What did you like about this exhibition? And from that, we are really trying to understand if they're walking away with the messages that we want to share, if they're excited about in something in particular, like a particular, um, you know, type of interactive. We want to know how we can improve going forward as well. So it's really critical to keep talking to people, which is another part of my job that I love, is that I get to interact with our visitors closely because I need to know, I need to know that um, they like what we're doing, and if we need to like adjust or change things.
Nice. And so after you get any kind of like, and someone just asked a question, is there specifically with Unshelved, is there a plan to periodically rotate what's on the exhibition? Because so I know you mentioned that there's an evaluation process and you want to talk
Mhm.
to visitors at the beginning of the development and then in the middle and then afterwards as well. Is there plans to kind of either change things up or would it be something completely new and fresh?
Yeah, right now there aren't any plans to change out the specimens in Unshelved, but we're talking about actually what's going to come after Unshelved. So we're just starting that conversation, and it could be a similar format where we want it to feel like you're sort of behind the scenes, but maybe more themed. It may be more sort of focused on a singular theme, because Unshelved covers all sort of all different disciplines, right? There's no singular discipline that is represented there. So the next one may be, just insect focused or yes, I know, yeah. We've got some background stuff that I'm revealing, that we've got in the works. Um, so yeah, there's there's a lot of potential there.
Nice. And so you kind of talked a little bit about kind of like the study of going in and really understanding our visitor and wanting to make sure that their experience is something that they value and cherish, and we value and cherish. And I know that you're currently, and this is going to be, I think, it's going to be our last question. We're just getting that message from our producer Emily, telling us, okay, we have 5 minutes left. So, in the last question that I want to ask to you, as a lifelong learner, I know that you're currently, in the master's program. How has working at the museum helped you, or has there been opportunities where you have been able to implement things and topics or theories that you're learning in your master's program into the museum work or vice versa?
Hmm. Yeah, I think. Well, I part of my job is learning, right? I mean, my background is not science, right? I don't have a formal science background, and so every day is a learning opportunity for me, and to learn from our curators, to learn from other staff, which I really value in my role and my job. I'm someone who likes to continuously learn and continue to read, and so learning about our region in particular is exciting for me. And so for me, I want to translate that for our visitors. I want to take that excitement around learning and translate that into a physical form through exhibitions. Um, and in my master's work, I've been focusing a lot on museums and on the future of museums and thinking about how we continue to remain relevant for our audience, how we continue to inspire them, and how we continue to connect them to issues that they care about. And I think that's what I'm interested in going forward is again how to just create that personal connection with the natural world that so many people value it for so many different reasons, and we've got to sort of celebrate that through exhibitions. So that's what I look forward to going forward, is just continuing to help people make those personal connections with nature.
Oh, so I just thought of another great question that I wanted to ask you. But if for the members that are at home or wherever you may be listening to us or watching us this morning, if we didn't get to your question, we're going to go ahead and get these questions to Bradley and see if he could answer them. Because I know this video is
Mhm.
also being recorded. So if we could get these questions to Bradley, we'll get them to him and he'll type up an answer to your questions and put them in the description when we post this video on YouTube. And the one thing that came up, but we're out of time, but maybe you'll answer this in the description, is where do you see museums going, Bradley? Like through your lifelong learning and through the program that you're registered, that you're enrolled in, like where do you see museums going in this time of that's just so much change is happening. So I know we're out of time, and it's gonna be hard to fit it into like one minute, but I just want to go ahead and say maybe that'll be a good opportunity for you to, maybe write in that question, write in that answer in the description when we post
For
it on
sure.
YouTube. But Bradley, I thank you so much for your time. I know we're going to go ahead and toss this back over to Emily. But any last words that you want to share with all our members that are listening to us today?
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon. I can't wait.
All right, Emily, if you're listening in to us, I think that was the last question that we had, and I don't want to take up many more time because I know you also have some great information that you want to share with everyone here today.
Yeah, thanks. That was really interesting to hear from you, Bradley and Hector. Um, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. It's always great to see you, even if it can only be virtual right now. We really appreciate your membership and you coming to hang out with us on these Friday member meetups. We do have a couple upcoming events that I think you'll be excited about. Later today at noon on Facebook Live, we've got a talk on bullfrogs, which should be really interesting. On November 11th, we have a Nat Talk um, that'll talk about the Kumeyaay Nation and their relationship with the land. So that should be a really interesting one. And then on November 20th, we'll have our next member meetup with one of our paleontologists, Ashley, to hear about his work. So thank you so much for coming out today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend.
Yeah, bye, everyone. Thank you so much for
Bye.
joining.